What up, what up? So, video on my bare heads. The heads that I got are Trick Flow 240s, 240 high port heads. They work with my cam, they work with my block, so everything should be fine. But Trick Flow does not sell them assembled with springs that work for hydraulic roller cams. They only do mechanical cams. So basically, the only way I could get them was to buy them bare and put them together myself. So that's what I'm gonna do. The main event is the actual heads. So these are the high port 240 Trick Flow heads, bare. This is pretty much how they come. All I did was take them out of the box. Might have snapped some pictures, but that's pretty much it. Ended up going ahead and getting the valves. So it's a 100 valve for the intake, and it's a 1/600 valve for the exhaust. 1/600 valve for the exhaust. Went ahead and got the Trick Flow valve, so this shouldn't be an issue. And then on their heads, most of their heads, they use pack products. So got the pack seats, retainers, AFR valve stem seals, locks. Some of their, I think it's the 212X springs. So no, 1220X springs. So all these should be right in line with what I need. Ended up getting one of the micrometers here to make sure everything sits correctly. But basically, the heads, real nice looking, CNC ported. All that's already been done. So I think I should be pretty good there. But you can see, man, these things look nice. Flow numbers are really good on this. I'll probably pop them up real quick so y'all can see those. You basically want to get everything, clean it up. Some of the stuff probably been sitting on the shelf, like my springs, kind of look like they're pretty dusty. So I'm gonna air those off. Then when you get the valves, you can kind of see, the brown stuff on there. That's basically been to keep them from rusting while they've been sitting up after they were made or whatever. So that needs to be clean. So I basically took all of them out of the packaging, set them up. And then just, I have basically just some carb cleaner, something that's going to get them clean. So now you can see they're clean, shiny. All the rust proofing stuff is off, or the grease or whatever it was, but got them all clean. That only took a couple of minutes. The springs are actually kind of dusty. Now, I just don't necessarily want all that to get caught up in my system. So I'm gonna make sure that those are, kind of blow those off a little bit. So again, just a couple of minutes, but you can see a big difference. Not all that the dust and everything that was on them before. So I went ahead and did all of those. A couple of things before you get started. You really want to check a couple of things. Your seats need to fit where your valve stems are going to come through. This does not need to be able to slide in there and everything. This sits perfectly. Then on top of that, your spring should sit perfectly on your seat. After your seat, your retainer should sit perfectly on your spring. So basically you should have something that looks just like that, to where when it's sitting and it's going up and down, it's basically just going to be going up and down. It should not be able to slide, back and forth in there. And mine ain't sliding, I'm just picking it up to kind of, for effect. But it should not be able to slide in there. Everything should be sitting right on there. So if I had the valve pressing right up in there, I could suppress it, put the locks in, everything will be exactly like it's supposed to be. Valve sits in here. when the valve is closed, it really needs to be closed. So basically, each of your valves sits or seats all the way in. Well, I can't put that one in, I'll just put it over here for now. But it needs to be able to go all the way closed, because you have a open point and a closed point for each valve. So basically when exhaust need to go out, boom. When exhaust need to, or when you're shutting the exhaust valve because you're building the pressure in the chamber, building combustion in the chamber, boom, needs to be closed. So that's what your timing, when your camshaft is doing, opening and closing. So it's riding on the lobes, opening and closing the valves when they need to close. So that's kind of part of your whole firing order and everything like that, right? But each of your valves, when they come from, especially some bare heads like this, one thing that you should do, which every time it may not need it, but there could be a little bit of imperfection in the mating area of the cylinder head and the valve. So you're just kind of grinding the valve. Get you some valve grinding compound. I just got some Permatex. First thing that I came across. So get you some valve grinding compound. And you can kind of get one of these little tools here. Just a little suction cup on a stick. They're making a lot of money with just a suction cup and a stick. Just plastering their name on it, and man, millions. But basically, you'll just, suction cup that, and then you just kind of go back and forth to where it actually kind of puts that groove. You want that groove in there so that basically when it's time for the valve to be closed, that groove helps it seal all the way closed so that you can build up the combustion chamber like you need to and get that compression. But basically, put that on the end of there, and you kind of just twist it a little bit so that it kind of mates a groove between the valve and the cylinder head, which also leads to this. Once you do it, each one is going to be a little bit different. So once you start doing this, you need to make sure that the valve that you choose to go in a certain valve hole is the same one that you keep there. So that's kind of why you clean everything, get everything together, and then basically you just start separating. Now, of course, you got my car is a push rod, small block Ford, so it's a 2 valves per cylinder. So basically, I'm just setting it up for 2 valves per cylinder. Like I said, I'm gonna take this one out. I'm gonna end up putting this one here, and this one is gonna go here. But I'm also gonna do all the valves, grind them up, and make sure that I remember where they are. So I'm actually gonna use a little marker and just kind of, that way I don't end up messing up myself. So I'm gonna get on that. So I'm gonna do this first one, and it doesn't take a whole lot. Now I got my numbers too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and this little marker number here shouldn't mess with anything. And then I basically just, that way in case I do end up, walking away or something like that, or misplacing, putting it somewhere else, I know which one goes with which. But this compound, so you kind of just, place a little compound on it. Doesn't need much. And this stuff is not super thick, but you just, you want to wear a groove. You don't necessarily want to bend or mess anything up. So you really more so just talking about a groove. Doesn't need much at all. Actually, that might be too much. But after that, I'm gonna take my super $1 million invention here. I'm gonna suction cup it. I'm gonna put it in there, work it in, make sure that it's enough room to where it seats all the way down, and then you just kind of go back and forth And if you do it the same way, you'll really be able to tell just by listening to it when it's starting to wear that groove correctly. You'll actually be able to hear it a little different. But I'm not putting too much pressure on it. Light pressure, just go back and forth. So I've done all those. I'm gonna take them all out. Be sure not to, mess with the numbers on them, but take them all out and wipe down the compound that's on them. That way it doesn't stay in there. That's basically like a liquid sandpaper. So I'm gonna take them all out, wipe them all down, make sure the numbers are there, and then move on to the next part. How you check spring height is by putting the seat on here, and then so you're gonna need some locks as well. So get you a couple of locks, get those ready, and those will sit off in there. And then you just kind of so that gets tight. So you're checking the heights to make sure everything is the same or within spec. So you got to do that for all of them as well. Now this is something that you want to write down too. So again, since I have numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, I go ahead and keep a log of that. That way I can know what my numbers are once I'm done. So with our Texas winter storm, I've been out of commission for over a week. No deliveries or anything like that. They weren't driving on the roads. Down south, we don't drive on ice. When a snow flurry hit the ground, it's time to shut everything down. So finally today, got a couple of things that I've been waiting on to be able to finish what's going on here. And it is the rocker arm guide plates that I needed for my for the rocker arms. These do fit. I did try some other ones that I had laying around, but they were off. So these will fit. That'll go in there. All that'll be good. But more importantly, I couldn't move anything forward because I needed shims. And I just got some comp cam shims. I don't think it really matters which ones you get, just so long as you get the right size. So if you remember before, I had all the measurements with the micrometer that we went through. And basically how this works. Your springs have a height, spring height. If they are at that spring height, when you put on your valves, it basically gets all of with your lift and your spring value and everything, you will basically get the best performance if this particular spring is at that height when the valve is closed. Now, what we do here, take the measurements, and then what you do in order to offset the different measurements. So like these springs are supposed to be at 1.9, right? Right here, you can see a couple of mine, 1.925, 1.916, 1.923, which they are not off by much. But in order for them to be perfect, or as close to perfect as possible, you get these shims that come in different sizes. So like these are 0.015, I got some 0.03s and some 0.06. But you get those and basically offset how different they are with the shims so that they sit at that height, and that goes underneath these. So basically, if I would have put the springs on and put the valves in and everything, I would have had to take it off because they need to go up under here. So basically I'll take these off. I've already done the measurement. Take these off, put the shims down, and then after that I'll actually be able to put the valves in and you know, kind of seat it all up. So I should be able to get this done today. This one valve here. So this will be my, let's say on this valve here, right? So that would be my intake. Basically, I would take this off because I want it to go up under there because this still needs to seat. This is the seat for the spring itself. So in order to get this extra height that I need, we're actually going to take that off. But intake valve would basically, like I said, needs 2.03s or 1.06. So you can see there I got the 0.06. So I take one of the 0.06s, put it down there. Then I also need a 0.015. So I take one of the 0.015s and put it down there, and then I put this back on, and now I'm ready to move forward. So basically that's how I would end up having to do it. You know, these all look pretty much the same, so you know, if you can keep them in the bag as good as possible, that's recommended. So I'm gonna go ahead, what I'm gonna do is, you know, kind of set all of them up, and then I'm gonna valve all of them up, and then I'm gonna, you know, kind of just finish the process like that so that I can keep it neat and clean. So I'll show you a couple on this. Okay, so for those of you who are using this video to do your own heads, I definitely wanted to do this. The valve micrometer, or valve spring micrometer, basically has a dip here. So whatever this dip is on your micrometer, if it has it, you need to take this number, take this measurement, and then subtract it from your number. Initially, my numbers were 2.02 something, and then they dropped down to like almost 2. So it is the difference in the number and could change the amount or how many shims you put underneath your seat. So now, as far as the seat height is concerned, this is actually what you're doing. When you put the valve in and everything is locked down, the valve sits on the cylinder, so it's not going anywhere. The retainer and locks on the valve sit in the same spot no matter what, so they're not going anywhere. When you compress your spring, put your locks on, the only thing that can change is the spring height itself. This is where the shims come in. When you put in shims, because this is locked in one place, this is locked in one place, the shims, basically what the shims are doing is pushing this up so that the spring height when the valve is closed changes. So my spring height is supposed to be 1.9. When I measured it, I came up with 1.928. Sounds like a small thing, but small things in a valve train could be very different. You know, your coil bind numbers, your lift numbers are all tied up into what goes on with this spring. So you have to make sure you have the right spring for one, and two, then you have to get it to the right spring height. So basically, let's say mine was 1.930, right? My measurement. My spring is supposed to be at 1.9. So if I put a 0.03 shim underneath my seat, when it compresses this time, it's going to be at 1.9, which would get it to right where the manufacturer's specs want it to be. So that's what you're doing when you put a shim underneath here. Because this is locked, it can't go anywhere on the cylinder. The locks are in the same place. Only thing it changes is the compression of the spring and gets it at the right spring height. So that is actually what you're doing, which is why you do want to check your spring height, and then if you need to, put some shims under there and get those in before you lock everything down. All right, so take all these out. Almost. Now these can go back on. There should be no serious shaking or anything in there. So Now, I'm actually gonna do something a little bit different. Because I have my system in place, it'll be able to help me out a little bit. But the way that this goes, which I had it here, and then this piece here would go here. Once it's up, and I'll be able to compress the spring. But as opposed to pushing it down, I'd rather pull it. So what I'm gonna do, and I'm not gonna get myself turned around because I know basically, each of these line up. I'm actually gonna turn it this way. I can do each one the same way I need to, but it also does not mess me up. So I'm going to, kind of just be going backwards. Once you got it all set up, I'm using these because they're kind of sticky on this side, so I don't be slipping when I try to pull. But you can throw this in there, line this up, and then when you're ready, kind of line that up, get your pull on. And then you can lower your spring down below and put your locks in. So seems like I'm gonna be doing a little bit of workout here, so I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get this done. Man, now I know why people get pneumatic spring compressors. This junk is difficult. Gotta keep it from wobbling. You gotta pull it down. You gotta hold it down. Get the things in there. If I gotta do this again, I'm buying a pneumatic one. But at the end of it all, I do have one cylinder put together and another one to go. Guess I'll just go ahead and get on it. Got one of the heads on. One thing you definitely got to remember, when you change your heads, you actually might need to change your push rod length again. So I'll post it up here somewhere, the video for push rods. That way you can watch that if you need to know how to do that. But got one of them on there using my push rod length checker that I bought last time. See, I knew they would come in handy. But using my push rod length checker, so I can go ahead and get this push rod length, order those in. Hopefully they'll get here. Hopefully they in stock. Maybe if I order them tonight, they'll ship them tomorrow. They'll get here Saturday, and I can be putting stuff in on Sunday. That's a good 4-day little bang'em right there. So finally, long time later, after delayed shipping, a winter storm, delayed shipping on the shipping's part, and then an extra weekend of them not shipping my stuff to me or not bringing it from the facility to me, finally, I got them back together. So heads put together from bare. Hopefully if you were trying to do it, you can actually see how it's done now. And for those of you following along with the build, I got the engine back together. So you can see them on there looking real clean. Looks like everything fits on there as far as the rocker arms, the springs. Got the new length of the rods in. Got everything in. So really, it's about to start going back together, so I can, keep moving forward. So success getting the bare heads, the heads that I wanted, then getting the setup, spring keepers, locks, seats, everything to put them back together with the stuff that I already had, or some of the stuff that I already had. So right now, still got some things to do. So if you do decide to do yours, you took off your intake, you do got to clean all this up before you put it back on, but that's nothing. So and then you also remember, you got to relash, reset everything, make sure it's all good. Another video on that, so that video was already kind of up, but so all that's left now is for me to put everything back like it was, drop the engine back in that hole, and then after I drop it in that hole, definitely gonna keep moving forward, see if we can get the next phase of the build started. Gonna make sure that everything's straight first, everything's running straight with the new head, see how much power we picked up. Well, I guess we can't really see because I never dynoed it, but I think this time I'm definitely gonna dyno it before we move on to the next phase, getting that boost, and then have a little fun. So if you haven't already, subscribe. More stuff coming. Actually made it over 100, so 100 subscribers. That's pretty cool. Hopefully we can do more. And shoot, if you got any questions, ask. I've actually got a couple people starting to comment and talk with me now. So if you have some questions, go ahead and ask. If you want to call me out, do that too. Cause hey, it's about to be ready. Hopefully by the end of this week, we're gonna be running again. And I'll take on you saw me take on the GTR. If I take on the GTR, I take on anything. Just let me know. Just subscribe and let's see what's up. That's all I'm saying. Send a comment. What's up? Hit me up on the Instagram. What's up? But nah, seriously. Gonna get it back together, see what we can do.